Hello friends, I'm Priscilla Purl. I'm an avid knitter and vintage enthusiast from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. I love to knit from both vintage and modern patterns to create items that complement my vintage-inspired wardrobe. If you want to see more of what I'm up to, I can be found on both Instagram and Ravelry as The Lavender Pearl. It has been 3 weeks since I've been able to sit down and talk to you. I've got a lot to talk about and I've been looking forward to sharing it with you. First, I'm going to tell you all about my recent finished object, the Dottie Cardigan. Then I'm going to talk about a recent cast on. And finally, I'm going to show you all of my recent yarn purchases since we've last talked and tell you all about my plans for them. I typically don't purchase large amounts of yarn at once, so this would almost be considered a haul for me. I think I was pretty good about staying within my budget and my comfort zone though, and most of my purchases were for projects that I already had planned, so I don't feel too guilty. This is the Dottie Cardigan by Grrls. I am so in love with it and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I used Sandnes Garn Duo and Drops Kid Silk Mohair held together. Sandnes Garn Duo is a 55% wool and 45% cotton DK weight yarn. I used a dark blue color. It is a really nice yarn. I've used it twice and I would definitely use it again. It is very soft and very nice to work with. Drops Kid Silk is a 75% mohair and 25% silk lace weight yarn. I used black. It is a nice budget-friendly mohair and it was really nice to work with. These yarns worked beautifully together and I love the blue and black speckled fabric that they created, and it's so soft. Not sure how well it shows up on camera. I love dark garments, so I tend to knit in dark yarn and they don't always show up the best on camera. This feels like a super luxurious garment, but I didn't have to spend a ton of money and I didn't break the bank on this one. The yarn choices for this pattern are endless. The pattern gives some suggestions of different weights of yarn that you can hold together to create the equivalent of a worsted weight. I feel like I made the perfect choice though. I'm so happy with it. I knit a size small. There's approximately 2 inches of positive ease in the bust on mine. Usually I knit fairly fitted garments, but I love the way that this pattern looks with a little bit of positive ease. Since there's a bit of positive ease around the arm and around the bust there, it gives kind of a dolman-like look when you lift your arms, and I really like it. I did not make many adjustments to the pattern. I skipped the last decrease before the waist there just because I wanted to make sure that there was enough give around the stomach area, that there wouldn't be any kind of gaping between the buttons. I also extended the sleeves a little bit just because I have long arms. And there's this really cute puff before the ribbing there, and I wanted to make sure that was still there. This pattern has instructions for covered buttons. It was my first time doing covered buttons and I purchased the recommended button and followed the instructions exactly, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. I really enjoyed knitting this pattern. It was a fun and easy knit. It was really easy to follow and my finished object turned out absolutely beautifully, and I know I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it. Because of the relaxed fit of this cardigan, there wasn't as much shaping to be done. It's knit top down in one piece, and there's a little bit of short row shaping on the back of the neck there for the shoulders. But when you pick up the sleeves, there isn't any short rows to be done there, which is really nice. It made the sleeves go by really quickly and I never felt like I was stranded on Sleeve Island. I've already worn this cardigan with some high-waisted pants, but I also plan on wearing it with skirts and dresses. I have been rewatching Mad Men for probably about the 3rd or 4th time now, and I noticed that in season 1 Betty wears a similar cardigan, and I noticed her wearing it over one of her cute dresses with the floofy skirts, and that was my inspiration for this outfit here. To sum it all up, I highly recommend this pattern. It was fun and engaging, but at the same time I found it pretty relaxing. And I am so happy with how my finished object turned out. I will definitely consider knitting it again. Next, I'm going to tell you all about a new cast on, but first I'm going to take this sweater off just because it's really warm and cozy and it's really warm in here. I don't want to take it off because it's so soft, but unfortunately I kind of have to. I recently cast on Beauty School by Poison Grrls. It is my third time knitting this pattern and it's likely not my last. I'm using Sandnes Garn Sisu in black. And as you can see, I am getting close to the bottom hem there now. It is a 80% wool and 20% nylon fingering weight yarn. It's one of my favorite budget-friendly fingering weight yarns, and I use it a lot for that reason. I find that it knits up really nicely and it creates finished objects that wear really well. I'm not sure if this is a common thing or not, but I really enjoy re-knitting patterns that I liked the first time around. When I go to re-knit a pattern, I already kind of have an idea of what to expect and how the finished object will turn out. It's also a much more relaxed experience and I don't have to think about the instructions as much. Do you like to re-knit patterns? I can't be the only one who does this. I started this sweater as a project knit, but I'm really enjoying the process as well. I want to be able to wear this sweater with my high-waisted pants and look like Audrey Hepburn or Beth from The Queen's Gambit. As a side note, if you haven't watched The Queen's Gambit yet, I highly recommend it. It is really good and the fashion is gorgeous. I also plan on layering this sweater under mod dresses and pinafores. I am knitting this Beauty School with a 3/4 length sleeve and I'm doing the mock turtleneck option. I'm knitting a size medium. There is about a smidge of ease around the bust, but it's still fairly form-fitted. I plan on not doing quite as many decreases for the waist though, just because I want it to be a little bit more relaxed. I plan on knitting mine just a little bit longer than the pattern calls for, probably to around the belly button or maybe a smidge longer. I'm glad I decided to knit this pattern again. I'm finding it to be a really relaxing process just because I already have an idea of the pattern. I don't have to worry about what's coming next. Since I'm already pretty familiar with the pattern, I already have an idea of where I want to tweak it to create what I'm envisioning. I'm already starting to think that I should make a short sleeve version of this sweater one day. So I received 2 packages of yarn since I last filmed. I just want to make it clear that I purchased all these yarns myself. I did not receive any freebies, and all the opinions that I share are my own. If I ever do receive any freebies, I'll make sure that I make that clear before I tell you about them. So I'm going to talk about the smaller of the 2 packages first. I ordered 3 skeins from Wild in the Woods. They are local to me on Vancouver Island and they dye yarn sustainably. I wish I kept the beautiful packaging that it came in. Inside the mailer bag, it came in this beautiful brown paper and it was all wrapped in twine. It was really nice. So I got 3 skeins of Wolfbane on their fingering weight base. It's a beautiful stormy blue. This yarn is single ply and 100% wool. It's from a mix of different breeds of sheep that have been raised on Canadian farms. And their website says that they use a chemical-free family-operated mill. This yarn is absolutely gorgeous and it has a very rustic feel to it. I like that they dye dark and moody colors, and by buying from them, I'm supporting multiple small Canadian businesses. So I bought 3 skeins, which is typically about a sweater's quantity for me, and I bought it without a pattern in mind, which is pretty unusual for me. I think it's been over a year since I've done something spontaneous like that. I was originally thinking about knitting a sweater, but now that I actually have the yarn in my hands, I feel like it wants to be a hat and shawl combo. I haven't decided on patterns yet. I'm thinking for the hat, I would want to either do a beret or a turban style hat. And for the shawl, I'm thinking about maybe doing a rectangular one instead of the typical triangular ones that I do. If you have any pattern suggestions for me, please let me know. All right, I think it's time for me to tell you all about my big box of Knit Picks yarn. So I don't buy from Knit Picks as often as I would like. I think they make really great budget-friendly yarns, but because of the US to Canadian dollar exchange rate, it just isn't quite as budget-friendly for me anymore. They usually have a big sale in November, so I decided to take advantage of it this year and stock up, and I managed not to break the bank. In years past, I have purchased based on what was the most heavily discounted, but then I ended up not knowing what to do with the yarn. So this year I was a little bit more planned and calculated, and I only bought yarns that I know that I like and based on patterns that I wanted to knit. So the first yarn that I bought is Stroll in black. It is a 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon fingering weight yarn. I bought enough to make some nice long elbow length fingerless gloves, and then also the brioche topped thigh highs by Lavanya Patricella. I've used Stroll before and I like that it's nice and soft. I also appreciate that it's a superwash yarn since I plan to use it for gloves and socks. I live in a wet climate, so they will likely get wet at some point, and I don't want to have to be babying them. The next yarn is Wool of the Andes, worsted in coal. It's a 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I've used Wool of the Andes multiple times before, and I really like it. It has a more rustic feel, but I don't mind that it's a little bit scratchy. I bought a couple skeins of this yarn to make the Best Beret by James Watts. I also bought Wool of the Andes Sport in coal and dove heather. The sport weight Wool of the Andes is also 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I didn't actually know that Wool of the Andes came in sport weight, so I was really happy when I saw that and I made sure I grabbed some. I've been struggling to find a sport weight wool yarn to make Arachne by Andi Satterlund, so I was really happy when I saw this and I knew it would be perfect for that project. Lastly, I bought Swish DK in Dusk. It is 100% merino wool. I used Swish before in worsted and I really enjoyed it. I found it a little bit splitty, so I'm interested to see if this splits as well, but it's really soft and it's a nice price, so I was willing to put up with it. I bought enough of this yarn to make Frenchy by Poison Grrls. Since I've knit so many Poison Grrls patterns, and I've knit a few of them a couple of times, I'm surprised that I haven't gotten to Frenchy yet. It is really cute. I hope you have enjoyed seeing my fairly conservative yarn splurge. You can expect to see me knitting with these yarns for the next little bit. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. It lets me know that people are interested, and by subscribing, it makes it easier for you to find my future videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.